Representative Johnson, House Bill 2401.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 2401 is a private act that deals with the city charter for the city of Clarksville. But before I get started, Representative Pitts and I have some guests here today. We have some members of the charter committee and some city councilmen from Clarksville, and I'd like to ask them to stand.
Okay. Thank you all for joining us this morning. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, this is the bill that I had here last year, and I would entertain a motion.
Is there a motion?
Question?
Is there a motion? Going once.
Need a motion.
Going twice.
For purpose of discussion.
Purpose of discussion. Okay, and a second. Purpose of discussion. I need a second.
I need a second.
And a second. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have two representatives that have requested to speak and answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative, to make sure that I understand, could you explain Article 2 and Section 15 of this new charter to me, please?
Article 2.
Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, may we go out of session and allow Mr. Roger Magnus to come up?
No
please?
objections? In recess. Give us your name and position. Thank you.
Thank you. Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee. I'm Roger Magnus. I'm a lawyer from Clarksville, Tennessee. Clarksville is my adopted home for about 30 years. I've practiced law there and represented local governments, including Montgomery County and the city of Clarksville, for that entire period of time. I participated throughout the process in the writing of this charter revision on the charter committee from beginning to end, and participated in all of the meetings of the city council in which the matter was debated for transmission to this body. The committee consisted of a number of lawyers, many of whom have many years in including myself in representing local governments, many professionals, and many of the citizens of the city of Clarksville, several of whom are here today. We are asking for you to take action and move this bill forward. This time last year, approximately, the matter came before you. There were some legal concerns that were expressed. I had the opportunity to review the videotape of the committee meeting after the matter was deferred. Those concerns were submitted to the Attorney General for an opinion. The Attorney General came back and answered those questions in favor of the legislation, resolving, I think, any questions about the legality of the legislation. We believed all along, we thoroughly researched these issues and debated them as we went along. We believed all along that there were no legal problems with it. I'm here today to answer any questions you have about any particular provision, if at the pleasure of the chairman.
Thank you, Representative Swarford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for that introduction. The same question, could you explain Article 2, Section 15, please?
Okay. Exactly. And members, that's on 29, page 29.
Beginning on, I have it on. Restrictions on councilmen. That's on page 30 of mine, so just so that we're clear.
Yes, could you explain that to me, please?
Certainly, sure. Legislative, one concern that I had throughout the process, having represented Montgomery County for 26 years up until 2006, was to try and segregate legislative and executive functions as best I could. One thing that I encountered throughout the years was were problems that we encountered when legislators attempted to act in an executive capacity and executives attempted to act in a legislative capacity. And so I have developed over the years a philosophy that government at all levels works better when everybody stays on their own turf. And that provision is primarily intended to keep the executive operating the executive functions and the legislative operating in the legislative capacity, and to keep legislators from acting as de facto executives. Does that answer your question, Mr. Vice Chairman?
No, sir, to be honest, it didn't. You explained your philosophy of keeping legislators away from the executive branch, but you've not addressed this section at all. Would you explain it, please?
Well, sure, I just did. I thought, what is it about the section that needs explanation? I mean, I
have nothing further, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
I can read it in.
You finished, Representative Swarford. Representative West, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill is 52 pages long, which is indeed the new charter, I'm assuming.
That's correct.
Okay. I also noticed where it passed in the Clarksville Council by 2/3 vote. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. In my reviewing of the new charter, it seems that the power of the council is being shifted to the mayor. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
In some respects.
Can you explain why, and if that indeed what it's intended to do, you all as the commission intended to do it?
Certainly. My personal philosophy is that we're in favor of a strong executive. That goes back to my study of history and General Jackson and President Jackson, his use of the veto power.
Now you're talking about a man that lives in my district.
I understand. Well,
he and his wife, and they vote for me every 2 years.
And I would say that I'm happy for you in that respect. But we thought there were many instances in the old charter where the legislative function appeared to intrude upon matters that should have been exercised and typically were exercised by the executive. An example would be the old charter placed responsibility for management of litigation with the city council working with the city attorney. Well, I'm here to tell you, as a government lawyer of many, many years, that is completely unworkable in the age of the Open Meetings Act. It's not only unworkable, it's completely inconsistent with the practical reality. You simply cannot manage litigation in open meetings. You can go into executive session and have lawyer-client discussions that are very restricted in nature, but you cannot effectively manage litigation. You can make budgetary decisions or economic decisions that affect legislation, but you can't manage litigation day to day legislatively in the age of the Open Meetings Act. It's not done in state government. It's not done anywhere that I know of. So that's an example of one area.
I noticed also that the mayor's veto override in the new charter goes from a simple majority to 2/3. Does that mean the mayor can vote any time?
That's right.
So can the mayor vote to override his own veto?
Well, presumably he could. It would be hard for me to envision a situation in which he would. I mean, in theory he could if he were persuaded between the time that he exercised the veto and the time that it came up for revote that his veto had been imprudent. So the answer to the question is yes, but in the practical reality it's hard for me to envision a situation when that would occur. The 2/3 veto, of course, is common among municipalities in the state. It's common among state legislatures in the country, and it is the constitutional provision enjoyed by the U.S. Congress. So.
I would remind the subcommittee members that, yes, we have bills that come through here to change charters. The mayor can vote, the mayor extension, and the council members and the commissioners. And that's just small items within the overall charter of that municipality. This, on the other hand, changes completely the charter of Clarksville, Montgomery County. As I go back and think about metropolitan form of government in Nashville, two governments was put into one, the city and the county. In doing so, a commission was formed. There were no elected officials on the commission. They came up with the charter. We put it to a referendum. It was turned down. First time. Second time it went through. The point I'm making is that the people of Nashville decided one way or the other. This makes us decide for the people of Clarksville when actually they should be voting on this particular by referendum, which can easily be put on the November ballot with no expense. So I bring this to your attention as a possibility, but the people of Clarksville need to vote on this charter. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Back on Section 15, restrictions on councilmen.
Right.
Let's see. It says the office of any councilman violating any provision of this section shall immediately become vacant upon his conviction in a court of competent jurisdiction. And it says that in Section 15A, the council shall act in all matters as a body, and no member shall seek individually to influence the official acts of the mayor or any other officer or employee of the city.
That's right.
That's very broad in my opinion. If a councilman attempts to influence a mayor, that could be a violation, and that council person could actually be convicted of. Could you explain that to me?
Well,
What
it says if he's convicted in a court of competent jurisdiction. But as I told you, the purpose of that provision was to keep councilmen acting collectively as a body and not separately as executives. And I think essentially that's what it says.
So if we were talking about state government and I attempted to influence the governor, which I think is something that we do pretty much around here.
Well, certainly.
Under those circumstances, if we had the same kind of rules in place, then that could be a violation.
That's correct. Well, with the exception that this, let me state this: this charter and state government are all overshadowed by the free speech provisions of the First Amendment and those contained in the Tennessee Constitution. It's pointed out to me that if your objections are to this provision, then you should be objecting to the old charter because this language is contained in the old charter, the one that's being changed. So that is the existing state of the law in respect to the existing charter in the city of Clarksville. So,
Representative Swarford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wasn't going to ask any more questions about this section, but I guess I'm just going to have to. If a council member sent a letter to the mayor as a letter of recommendation for someone for a job, because they go to church with them as many people do, not just elected officials, but lots of people send letters of recommendation to somebody they know because maybe they go to church with somebody or they're their neighbor, or maybe they've babysat their children, and they know them personally, and they send a letter of recommendation. As I would read this, that would be that would be a violation of this section of your charter, and also, as I understand it, these members would be taken off their seat without an ouster.
Well,
is that correct as well?
I think that's what that refers to when he talks about the conviction in a court of competent jurisdiction. That's how removal is accomplished, is by ouster. And as I pointed out, this provision didn't get changed. This provision did not get changed. So,
well, maybe that's something that you should be addressing instead of some of the other things.
Maybe it should be, but as you, Mr. Vice Chairman, as you well know, legislation is a process of give and take. There were things that were debated about being changed. This was likely one of those items that didn't get changed after debate. We debated every single provision, and this one got left in from the old charter. So there were things that I advocated in favor of, like the removal of term limits, that we sent up to the council, and they put back in. So that's how as you well know, that's how legislation works. This is retained from the old charter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. It's about 9:15. I think we have until 9:30. Representative Chairman Todd, did you want to be recognized on this?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for being here.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Magnus. Did the city employees have any input in this charter change?
Certainly. We had many of the city employees appear before our committee on a section-by-section basis. Obviously, some of the sections of the charter refer to the judicial functions, some refer to the financial functions, some refer to the police functions, and we had representative from the police department, from the Judge Smith was there. We had many occasions we had the city finance director there and got his input in respect to matters with respect to how the new charter would work in the context of what he does and how he does it.
Rank and file is what I'm talking about.
That's right. Well,
I'm not talking about your finance director appointed by the mayor.
We did. We had rank and file people there.
Were they on the board? Did the charter change? Any rank and file members of the Clarksville city employees on the charter change board?
I don't recall on that. We had 4 or 5 or 3 or 4 city councilmen or city council persons on the committee. I don't remember if we had a what you would refer to as a rank and file employee on the committee. But my recollection is that we did not. But we had probably 12 or 15 members altogether, many of whom came some days, but not all days. So
yeah, and I have the same concerns as my colleague from Nashville, Representative West, does, that the people of Clarksville have not had any input in this as far as voting. Do you have a problem carrying it back to the voters, letting them vote on this charter change?
I certainly do, and here's why. That's not how we operate in Tennessee and in Clarksville. We operate in a Republican form of government. The citizens of Clarksville have, in fact, addressed this matter. They elected the 13 members of the city council, which include the mayor. The mayor is elected by all the people in the community, and the 12 councilmen are elected by ward. They were all elected in that fashion, and in that respect, they have a right to weigh in on it. That's why we have elections.
Many charter changes in the state, though, are put into the referendum let the people vote on them, because people don't understand and know sometimes because it's not printed out there in the media. You think the media is going to print everything that's in there?
I doubt it, and I doubt that if we have a referendum, that will be accomplished either, frankly, with it being the length that it is. That's why the citizens, respectfully, that's why the citizens appoint 12 city councilmen and a mayor, who's also a member of the city council, to make these decisions on their behalf. And that's how, in this case, that's how it was done with the assistance of this committee, which contained several professionals that had worked on matters like this for many years.
You know, me personally, I just think, based on what I've read in this charter changes, that the employees are the ones that are not getting represented here. in this, and I think the mayor has authority to do anything he wants to any employee based on these charter changes. Also, you took us to task in the newspapers last year. Got the copy all of them here for you. So you call Miss Swaney. She'd gone an underdog, an instant lobotomy up there.
Excuse me, are you attributing that?
Not
to
you.
me?
Not you. I didn't say you.
Right.
I said
Fine.
your councilman and them did, Mr. Reed and some of the others.
Right.
So you said you'd rather see the charter fail than make concessions. We're not trying to make concessions. We just want to make sure that people in Clarksville have a fair representation with these charter changes. So I guess, it could fail today because of that.
Well,
you accused my good friend right there and some of our legislative colleagues of letting somebody else do their dirty work and not standing up here. And I think they do a good job representing the city of Clarksville, all of them, on both sides of the aisle. And it's our responsibility to make sure that the people in that community is represented too, not just those who are elected. So I've got all your articles here, and Councilman Reed, I wish he was here today. Well,
Representative Todd, are you calling for me to respond to what you just said? Because
Yes, sir.
I'd be happy to do that. I have worked in county government, city government for 30 years and sent countless private acts up here. I have never yet, not once, had one fail to pass that enjoyed the enthusiastic support of the local delegation. So those were the bases of my comments. I've been friends with these gentlemen for a long time, known Representative Johnson longer than I have Representative Pitts, but I'm not naive about how the process works. And I will have to tell you that when I observed the decorum of this committee on the video, I thought that the decorum and the comments that were made regarding the city of Clarksville, my adopted home, were beneath the dignity of this body. It was laughing and jocularity and derisive comments made about the city of Clarksville, and frankly, I was offended by that. So I say that respectfully. I've been in government many, many years. I know sometimes that sort of thing occurs, but Clarksville is my adopted home. I'm proud of it. It's the home of many heroic figures currently living and in the past, and I don't appreciate it when derisive comments are made about the city of Clarksville in the legislature.
Well, I didn't make any divisive mark. I talked about the 2/3 vote and the mayor up there. Y'all were the ones that made the divisive comments in the paper, sir, and they're here.
Mr. Chairman, please.
So I'm not going to vote for it, so y'all go on.
Let us try to stay focused on why we're here. And I'm going to recognize Representative Jones and Representative West, and after that, we're going to go back into section, and we're going to make a decision on this bill. You recognize Representative Jones. And keep in mind, we have until 9:30, so we're running out of time.
On Article 3, dealing with the mayor's power, it says the mayor shall have the power to appoint all standing committees as he deems necessary, and shall have the right to change the committee members as he deems advisable. The city council don't decide on committees.
That's right. That's a common
Okay.
common charter provision.
And who serves on those committees? Would be left up totally to the mayor.
That's correct.
Okay.
No objections with
One other person that has requested.
we really don't have the time. We have to relinquish this room at 9:30. But I'm going to yield to just a very, very brief comment. For any very brief comment, sir.
Hello, my name is Jeff Burkhardt. I am a city councilman, and I would ask that you vote against this because I represent the largest ward in the city. And if you pass this legislative, I will be, my constituents will not even be represented 2/3 of the time. The mayor and 4 council people can do anything they want. And the other eight wards will not even be represented. I know we're short on time, and I would ask that you vote this down. Thank you.
It was good to hear from you. We get another perspective from the council. Representative West, you're recognized. We're back in session.
We back in session?
Yes.
Okay. I would like to offer an amendment to the bill that this charter be put to a referendum to the vote of the people in Clarksville to be held November the 3rd, which is the general election in that particular city. They would vote it up or down. Sally, is that a proper motion?
Is that a proper motion?
Yes.
Okay, that's a proper motion.
Thank you.
There's a motion, properly second. Any questions on that? Representative Johnson, did you want to comment on that, on this motion before we take a vote?
Just a second.
Are you suggesting we go? Okay. We have a sidebar, so Representative West, you can talk. Wait on the sidebar.
I believe, Mr. Chairman, as ruled by the chair in days gone by, that when an amendment is put on, it's voted up or down. If it's voted up, then the bill with the amendment is moved to the following week. Is that a correct statement?
That's correct.
Thank you.
That's correct. Question on the amendment.
Mr. Chairman,
You're recognized, Representative.
I have just
Johnson.
talked with Mr. Magnus, who is the spokesman for the city, and they requested that I not accept the amendment.
Okay. That's publicly and well noted, but we're going to take a vote. No, I don't think you're withdrawing your amendment, are you?
No, sir.
Okay, we're voting on the amendment. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no.
No.
The ayes have it, unless I see some objections. The ayes have it. So we're back on the bill as amended. And since we've just received that amendment, it was voted up, then if there's no objections, we'll roll this for 1 week. Representative Johnson, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee.
1 week.